What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Studio Time. I am your host, Jay Stew, and with me is my wonderful, wonderful co-host, Mr. Justin Speck. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot, man. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about the hero's journey tonight.
Yes, we got a great topic tonight. I'm very, very excited to talk about the hero's journey. I just want to thank you guys for joining me tonight again. This has been really fun relaunching Studio Time, which is now part of the uh, Culture Nerd Podcast Network. So once again, thank you guys for being patient with me and joining me on this journey, no pun intended, for Studio Time. Without any further delay, we're going to go ahead and get right into the main topic, which is the hero's journey. Though, for those of you that are not familiar, there's a little known American writer. His name is Joseph Campbell. Um, I never heard of him. Have you heard of him?
No, doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell. He is most well known for uh his book. What's the name of that book? I forgot the name of the book. Oh, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. He's most well known for A Hero with a Thousand Faces, and in that book, he describes what we now know is the hero's journey. So how all of these different cultures and mythologies, they all use storytelling, and throughout those stories there are certain things that stay the same. There's the main character, the hero, and he goes on a particular path to meet his end goal. Reading this on Wikipedia right now, it says Campbell explores the theory that mythological narratives frequently share a fundamental structure. The similarities of these myths brought Campbell to write his book, in which he details the structure of the monomyth. He calls the motif of the archetypal narrative the hero's adventure or the hero's journey. In a well known passage from the introduction to The Hero with a Thousand Faces, Campbell summarizes the monomyth as a hero ventures forth from the world of the common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. So basically, what he's saying is that, you know, you take a guy who is, well, who is basically the everyman, and you put him in a supernatural or a fantastical adventure. So he goes through these rites of passage on the way, and the whole point of it is to teach people how to be a better person. And this was the hero's journey was made famous because well, made famous in today's, in the, in the modern storytelling, because uh George Lucas, who is famous for Star Wars, he said that he used the hero's journey as a model for Luke Skywalker's uh character development throughout the Star Wars saga, and that kind of uh really brought attention to Joseph Campbell and his work, which has influenced literally everyone in the last like 50 years, as far as storytelling is concerned, and not just movies. So novels and comic books and everything. So what do you think about that, Justin?
Yeah, I do. I mean, when I think of the hero's journey and I think of Joseph Campbell, I can't help but also think of George Lucas because I've heard that story too, where
Hmm.
he I've heard it a little bit of a different way. I've heard that he made American Graffiti, and after he made American Graffiti, he started reading Hero with a Thousand Faces and realized that Luke Skywalker and his Star Wars script kind of followed it already, and he then tweaked it even more to kind of follow the
Hmm.
hero's journey a little bit more. So yeah, I think George Lucas uh gave credit where credit was due, and made Joseph Campbell probably even more popular. I think once Star Wars came out and became a huge hit, people probably started checking out this Joseph Campbell book that George Lucas was talking about. And I think, a lot of movies and books and whatnot probably fall into um the hero's journey and what Joseph Campbell was talking about, even if they didn't realize they were doing it, just because it's
Mhm.
so kind of ingrained in kind of good storytelling,
Yeah.
to have a hero um change and grow and have a character arc. Um and so there's a couple of, like, you know, if you Google the hero's journey, one of the movies that pops up is The Wizard of Oz
Mhm.
and Dorothy. And so that was, I don't remember when Joseph Campbell wrote that book, but that was before obviously George Lucas made Star Wars. Wizard of Oz was
Yeah.
1939. So um yeah, movies and books were kind of doing the hero's journey before Joseph Campbell became super popular and everything.
Mhm.
It's just that it's kind of it just we like to see our characters have these character arcs and grow and and become different characters by the end of the movie. That it just kind of it kind of is a natural part of storytelling. And Joseph Campbell, I think, was the one that kind of realized it and put it into good words, I guess you could say.
No, absolutely, absolutely. He put it he put it in a way that was very analytical but very accessible at the same time. So he put it in a way that we could understand it, and he shows why it works. And one of the things I find interesting about the hero's journey is that it it uses the everyman. It uses a the most of the time it uses an archetypal version of the average human being and places them in a not so average situation. Taking an ordinary guy and putting him in an extraordinary situation or an extraordinary circumstance.
Mhm.
And when it's done well, it ma- it presents the character as someone who can be um improved upon. Um to reference Blake Snyder, who is another little known writer that no one
Mhm.
knows about.
Mhm.
In his book Save the
Save the
Cat.
cat.
Yeah, Save the Cat 2 actually.
Oh.
Save the Cat goes to the movies.
Oh,
He was
nice.
talking about how there is always a sin that is integral to the character and the story. And whether whether it's the monster in the story, because he breaks down different story types: monster in the house,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
golden fleece, out of the bottle, what else, right, rites of passage, superhero. But
Yeah. Yeah.
no matter what it is, either the protagonist or the antagonist is or some, or a lot of times both, they're guilty of some type of sin. Is so they're guilty of some type of sin of which they have to overcome. And what I find interesting about that is everybody has a big character flaw, whether whether they are willing to admit it or not. But everybody has that big character flaw. Some of us have more flaws than others.
Right.
Um, but it really presents storytelling in the most accessible way possible. People love flawed characters. People don't necessarily like a character that can do everything, that is infallible, and invulnerable to not only physical but emotional and mental threats. Nobody likes that because that doesn't create any conflict. So the
Right.
hero's journey
They're
is a
boring characters to
perfect.
watch. Yeah.
Right. The hero's journey is a perfect canvas for conflict. And that's why it works so well. And like you said before, some people adhere to the hero's journey and don't even know that they're doing it because
Right.
it's such a blank canvas. But it's so ingrained in our psyche and the way we tell stories that it 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 it, like I said, it can't help but work when it's done well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So I've heard that complaint about Superman. Some people don't like Superman
Mhm.
because he's too powerful and he's too good and he's too, they don't see the potential, I guess you could say, for how he's an alien in a human world, and he doesn't
Mhm.
belong, and there's a lot of emotional drama you can have there, an emotional conflict. And but
Yeah,
but a lot
absolutely.
of people who are not necessarily Superman fans, just they find Superman boring because they see him as kind of invulnerable. Yes, there's kryptonite, but otherwise he can't be hurt, and he's just,
Mhm.
what do you do with that? And so I can kind of understand that argument, but I just think they don't give him a chance. But
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. I think the thing and Emmett just brought it up. Um I think the thing that makes Superman interesting is just, like you said, the internal conflict is what makes Superman interesting. Of course, he is a godlike hero.
mhm.
He's OP. Every like 7 to 10 years or so, he gets a power upgrade, making him even more OP.
Right.
But like you said, the thing that makes him interesting is the internal conflict. He is essentially a god amongst men. He was, he was, created by just, two Jewish teenagers, and they wanted to write a hero that was influenced by their faith. And I just think Superman, a lot of people think he's boring, but I just think, again, he is very interesting with his internal conflict, and he too is just a blank canvas for
Mhm.
so many great stories that you could tell. Like, someone, an alien living amongst humans, and becoming a part of the pantheon of the Justice League. And
Mhm.
what makes that interesting is that he's the alien amongst the Justice League, who are mostly human for the most part. You got Martian Manhunter,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
you got your demigods and stuff like that.
Right.
But for the most part, the league is human. And the ironic part about that is that he's the alien, but he is probably the most human out of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And not necessarily because he's flawed, but just because of his, because he is flawed in some ways, but because of his upbringing. He,
Right.
he came from humble beginnings. He was raised on a farm. Like Henry Cavill Superman said in Man of Steel, I was raised in Kansas. I'm about as American as it gets.
Right. Right.
um
That's what I was gonna say. Man of
and
Steel does it really well because
yeah,
the whole first act of that movie is him trying to find his place. He doesn't know where he came from. He knows he's not. He might not know necessarily as an alien, but he knows that he's different than everybody,
yeah.
and he's trying to find answers. And he's his dad didn't want him to expose who he was or his powers to the world because he thought the world wasn't ready, and so he
Hmm.
feels very um alone, essentially. He feels very like he can't really let anybody in. He's a loner throughout the beginning of the movie. He's going kind of from job to job, hiding
Hmm.
who he is and everything. So I really liked that about Man of Steel. They did a really good job of having Superman, with that conflict, with that inner turmoil of, I can't really be who I was born to be, but at the same time, I don't know who I am. And one of Henry Cavill does such, not to just talk about Man of Steel on this episode, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Henry Cavill does such a good job when he first meets Jor-El on that spaceship, and he finds out his name is Kal-El. And that it's just a simple little performance thing, but he's like, "That's my name."
That's my name. Yeah.
Like, it's just, you can just tell he's like, he's been waiting for 30 years to learn this information, and to finally find out. Just, it was a good day for him. And so I thought Man of Steel does a really great job at that.
No, for sure. I definitely agree. Another hero that is perfect for the hero's journey. My favorite hero, Batman.
Yeah.
He is an incredibly flawed character. And he is another character that gets a lot of hate. Um, which I understand. Batman is often written with a lot of plot armor. I get it. But at his core, he is one of the most interesting, one of the most complex fictional characters ever created. There is no end to the potential of great stories that you could tell with Batman. They will be made there are so many versions of Batman. They're going to be making Batman movies for the next millennium.
Yeah, long after we're gone, they're still gonna be making
Long after
Batman
we're
movies,
gone.
yeah.
Yes, yes. And there's a reason for that. He is incredibly complex. Everybody knows the origin of Batman, or Bruce Wayne losing his parents in Crime Alley when he was a kid, and using that vengeance to fuel his uh his quest for justice. And Matt Reeves, the Batman, does the hero's journey almost perfectly.
Yeah, you're right, yeah, he
And
really does.
but the thing is, he took Batman back to his roots, which is a noir detective, but he still managed to find a way to make it compelling, um, make it dramatic, make it emotional, but still adhering to that classic noir detective feel.
Mhm,
Um, and I thought that was brilliant because in his version of Batman, he's a young Batman, year 2. He has yet to become the true Batman, the Batman that we know and love.
mhm,
He is so fixated on vengeance. As a matter of fact, that's what people call him. They don't even call him Batman. They call him Vengeance because that is at that time his sole purpose is vengeance. He wants to instill fear into the criminals of Gotham, which he
right,
does effectively. But what makes his hero's journey so interesting is that he has to overcome that vengeance, and he still use it as a tool, but not let that vengeance define him.
mhm,
um and he has to become like a true hero, a beacon of hope
right,
for the people of Gotham, and not just judge, jury, and executioner for the criminals of Gotham. That's just one aspect of Batman, and I
right,
thought that Matt Reeves understood the assignment and did it nearly perfectly.
yeah, I agree, yeah. I mean, he says in the beginning of the movie, "I don't know if I'm making a difference." And because all he's what he's doing is in some ways it had made a difference. There were criminals obviously scared of him. I love that opening scene of the paint can rolling towards the dark and the graffiti artist being like, I'm
Yeah.
not going for that. Because he sees Batman basically in the
Like, well,
shadows.
that's gone.
Yeah, yeah. um but at the end of the movie he realizes that being a beacon of hope will have so much of a stronger effect on the city of Gotham, because he was really focusing on the criminal aspect of Gotham and
Hmm.
thinking that if he just could like beat all the criminals to a pulp, that would make Gotham better. But he kind of realizes at the end that if he can be a symbol of hope for all of the citizens of Gotham, that
Yeah.
will have so much more of an impact than just beating up these criminals and scaring. Because even the regular citizens of Gotham were scared of Batman. That one guy that he saves in the beginning, after he beats all the gang members up, is that guy goes, "Please don't hurt me." He's like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
terrified of Batman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that movie does a great job of Batman's journey and of becoming a true hero. And
No,
you're right, Matt Reeves
absolutely.
understood the assignment and Matt Reeves killed it. Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But again, that's just what that's what makes good storytelling is. is the internal conflict. You can have all the lights and bells and whistles and lasers and robots and fire and magic in the world, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have good characters and good characters that either go through a significant change or cause the world around them to change. For example, Marty McFly. Marty McFly is one of the is a person in the hero's journey. He that he doesn't change himself, but he changes the world around him,
Right.
which is important. He I mean he changes a little bit. He learns a little bit of more appreciation for his parents,
But
but
by the 3rd
m-
movie, he changes a lot because
yes.
he doesn't care anymore that if somebody calls him chicken, and he doesn't have to
Mhm.
prove that anymore. So
Mhm.
he does change a little bit, but you're right. Especially in the 1st movie, he doesn't change a whole lot, but he does change people around him and everything.
Yes, yes. Because he's essentially a good person. He's a young
Yeah.
teenager, so
Yeah.
he's very, zealous, he wants to have a good time,
Wants
but
to be a rock star.
yeah, he wants to be a rock star, but at the end of the day, he's already a good person.
Right.
So he doesn't necessarily need to change in order for the story to be effective. But for that same story to be effective, he needs to affect the world around him. And the filmmakers for that, Robert Zemeckis, um, uh, who wrote
Bob
that?
Gale.
Bob
Bob
Gale,
Gale.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Bob Gale, they understood that. So that's a great example of internal conflict, but internal conflict affecting the world around the hero. Emmett brings up another good example, Frodo,
Yes.
uh, for the hero's journey in Lord of the Rings. The thing about Frodo for me that resonated was he had to overcome his fear. He was also a a person that was pretty virtuous. He's a pretty good guy,
Yeah.
but he had a tremendous amount of fear and lack of self confidence. And if it wasn't for um, if it wasn't for Sam, who is like, if we be honest, Frodo don't deserve Sam.
Right, right. No one deserves Sam.
Like, I need a friend like Sam.
Yeah, we all need a friend like Sam. Yeah,
But yeah,
Sam is
it
like, the quintessential loyal best friend who
absolutely.
literally carries Frodo to his end goal, basically. So,
But Frodo, like I said, he had to overcome fear of not only the journey itself, but fear of the power of the ring taking him over, because he's seen what it has done to people, and he is afraid of that. But what drives him forward and what is his most probably his most endearing quality is his sense of duty.
mhm.
He understands that he has to do something. He has to get this ring to this place, and with the help of Sam, both externally and internally, he does everything he can to achieve that goal. So for me, with Frodo, what stands out about him is, as well as Sam, is their diligence, which is a huge aspect of the hero's journey.
Yeah. And kind of like Marty McFly, like you said, Frodo was already a good person, good character.
Hmm.
And so he doesn't necessarily change all that much. Obviously, the journey changes him to an
Yes.
extent, but I mean, he's still Frodo the good hobbit,
Yes.
when the story's over. Um have you read Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces?
I have not.
I
I've skimmed it, but I
Okay.
haven't I haven't I haven't read it in its entirety. I've just read like excerpts here and there.
I haven't either, and so I was going to ask you a question. Maybe you still know the answer. I don't know, but we were talking about how the character usually is an everyday man, quote unquote. But I was wondering if there was anything in there about like it being an ordinary everyday guy, but we find out that he's got extraordinary abilities or powers. Because two of the characters that come to mind when I think about the hero's journey as well is Harry Potter,
Mhm.
who starts off thinking he's a nobody, and part of that is because of his upbringing. And then you find out he's the one who survived or whatever they call him, you remember? And
Mhm.
then and he ends up being essentially kind of the chosen one. And then
Mhm.
there's also Neo from the Matrix, who, is essentially an everyday guy. He works an office job. He's a hacker, but he's we can all kind of relate to Neo in the beginning of that movie. And then we
Mhm.
find out he is the one, and even though he's
Right.
told by the Oracle that he's not,
Right.
but if we, but he is, and he definitely changes by the end of that movie. But he is those two characters have kind of extraordinary abilities, and I was curious if there was a subset of the hero's journey or something that talked about that.
I'm not sure, but we will find out and we will discuss that in part 2.
Okay. I didn't do the reading before this episode.
I did I did a little bit of reading before this
Okay.
episode.
Okay.
But really quick, I want to get into like the different aspects of the hero's journey before we move into the next segment.
Okay.
Joseph Campbell uh lays out the monomyth and describes it as steps or stages along the journey. And usually what happens is that the character has to leave the common world, the world that we know, when he receives the call to adventure. This is usually the inciting incident in a movie or a screenplay. He has the help of a mentor, and that mentor will help him cross a guarded threshold. For example, um, in Neverending Story, the guarded threshold. I mean, there are probably a few guarded thresholds in the Neverending Story, but one that comes to mind is the Sphinx. When he has to pass through those two
Right. Yeah.
sphinxes. Um, what else? Another guarded threshold. Shrek uh when he has to cross the bridge and slay the dragon in order to save Fiona.
Right.
So that that will lead him into the supernatural world, and this the regular laws don't apply. Along that journey, he gets allies. He has to face an ordeal or multiple ordeals in order to achieve the goal of his journey. And what the thing that I uh, find interesting about those different steps are the mentors, because oftentimes, like we said, the protagonist is the everyman, and the mentor or the allies are the more colorful characters,
Yeah.
and so they are there to help the hero not only achieve his external goal, but to give him what he lacks internally. So my question to you, Justin, is what do you think makes a good mentor or a good ally?
Oh man, good question. I feel like it's got to be a character who's probably been through some, maybe not necessarily the same type of stuff, but similar kind of things. You think about Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Mhm.
um, Dumbledore, Gandalf,
Mhm.
all these kind of like wise characters who have been a part of the supernatural world that our hero hasn't been yet.
Mhm.
And so somebody who has experience in that area or in the world, um and and I just, for me, it's like I also think of those characters as being very friendly as well, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Not all
they're
the
kind of
time, but
not all the time, but
yeah, a lot
like
of time they
Gandalf.
are.
Gandalf talks down to the hobbits a lot. Not necessarily Frodo, but like Merry and Pippin, he's always calling them fools and everything, and he um but like Dumbledore, Dumbledore can be strict and everything, but usually he's very kind and and welcoming to Harry Potter,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing with Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, Obi-Wan Kenobi is very he wants Luke to be a part of the world, you know, part of he wants him to learn to be a Jedi and everything.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's what I think of anyway. I think of a wise kind of older character who's kind and or mostly kind and just who has been a part of the world and has that, you know, wisdom to share. That's kind of what I think about.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about Marty McFly, I would say the mentor character would be Doc Brown, and Doc Brown is not very welcoming or kind in the 1950s when Marty first shows up. You know, he thinks Marty's crazy, number 1, because he doesn't really think that his invention worked until Marty kind of proves it to him.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's the kind, friendly uh
Yeah.
mentor. But at first he's very much like, get out of my face, kid. You know, you're bothering me. Um
Well, back in 1950s, 55, he's like
right.
that.
Yes, when
Um,
Marty first shows up, right.
yeah,
And he's
yeah.
got the big thing on, and he goes, you know, puts the suction cup on Marty's head. Yeah, that's the Doc Brown that I was thinking of. But once
Yeah,
Marty kind of explains, you fell off the toilet, you hit your head, and that's how you came up with the flux capacitor. That whole thing, you know.
yeah.
Then Doc Brown's like, but even then, you know, he's still he's still skeptical because I remember there's that scene where he says, "Well, who's president in 1985?" And he goes, "Ronald Reagan." He goes, "The actor?"
The
You know,
actor?
he's like, so there's still some skepticism until they just he finally kind of gets it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you? What do you think of when you think of kind of the mentor character?
I mean, I think of most of the things that you said,
Morpheus
going
is
back
another one.
to
Sorry.
yeah, going back to, Save the Cat Goes to the Movies, Blake Snyder, um, he said that there's always a character that is the half man, which, is the character that is knowledgeable about the supernatural, but is still a part of the natural world, and is often an ally to the hero.
Hmm.
Sometimes that ally can be revealed to be an enemy. For example, what's the character's name in Alien?
Bishop?
uh
Oh no, Ash.
Ash, yes. Ash, he is, the half man character. He seems to be very knowledgeable about the alien itself.
Right,
Um and he seems to be an ally at first, but it's then later revealed that he is just an agent for Wayland Utani.
right.
So I definitely find that interesting, how mentors and allies can be used for subversion,
Hmm.
as well as the development of, or to help the development of the main character.
That is cool. I didn't think about that, but you're right. Yeah, like Ash is a great example of that. You know, somebody who
Hmm.
is kind of the character, the wise kind of mentorish character, but who ends up turning on them.
Hmm.
Spoiler alert for a movie that's like 50 years old. Bringing back Man of Steel back up is Jor-El. Jor-El would be kind of the mentor character for Superman, right? But
Yes, yes, absolutely.
he's not necessarily part of the human world, and he's not even really there. He's a kind of like an AI, but
Hmm.
he also chose Earth when he was on Krypton, so he's kind of somewhat familiar with Earth and humans, you know, and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But he's the one that, yeah, he's the one that obviously um, explains everything to Kal-El and tells him where he's from and tells him who Zod is and all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes the mentor character or the allies provide exposition, which
right.
Jor-El does, um, which is another integral aspect to the hero's journey, because that exposition not only helps helps flesh out the plot and why the character needs to do what he needs to do, but it also helps build the world, which is very important for the hero's journey because the hero, it doesn't matter what the hero can do if we don't know why he's doing it.
Right.
And those smaller supporting characters, the mentors, the allies, they are there to um reinforce theme and you know different motifs, and to just reinforce the reasoning for the hero's journey. So
Right.
that's just another thing that I find interesting about the mentor type characters.
Yeah. And I was talking about the mentor characters that came to mind, and Morpheus came to mind a little too late after
Hmm.
you had started talking again. But he fits that category perfectly, and just like you were saying, he's Morpheus gives a lot of exposition in that movie because he basically has to explain to Neo what the Matrix is and how it's a computer program, and you know, um, when he brings Neo out into the real world for the first time, and then trains him, and even though training in the Matrix is just downloading programs, but he's
Yeah.
helping Neo. He's essentially kind of breaking his mind, being like, everything you thought was real, forget it. This
Hmm.
we can break the rules of physics and everything in the Matrix.
Hmm.
And there was something you just said that still fit Morpheus really well. Um, and now I don't remember what it is, but oh, that's what it was. You're talking about, like, kind of giving the hero a reason, like, knowing why the hero is going on this journey. and
Hmm.
and that was another. Yeah, Morpheus kind of falls into that category too, of explaining, like, it's still a war against humans versus machines, and you know there's more to it than just the agents in the Matrix. There's the machines trying to find Zion, and, like, we are fighting to save humanity, essentially. And so
Hmm.
giving Neo a because Neo's, like, dramatic need, I guess you could say, in the beginning of the movie is just to find out what the Matrix is. And so
Hmm.
then once he finds out what the Matrix is, then his new dramatic need is to save humans. It's like,
Yes.
and in the Matrix, I guess you could say it is to save humanity, but they kind of narrow it down a little bit more than that, because Morpheus gets kidnapped, and so it's, I
Yes.
got to save Morpheus.
Yes.
And then, of course, over the trilogy it becomes more about saving humans. But
Yeah, for sure, for sure. To go back to the Morpheus point, at that point when he decides to save Morpheus, right before that, the Oracle tells him that he's not the one.
right, right.
He already had suspicions that he probably wasn't the one because
Yeah,
he
the
like
doubt, yeah.
how like yeah how would you take it if somebody told you that you were the savior of the world?
Right, it's a lot of pressure, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. But at that point, he didn't believe it, which then freed him of that pressure. And
Right,
now he's doing the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing.
right.
I have to save Morpheus. Morpheus is willing to sacrifice his life for me, whether I'm the one or not. I have to save Morpheus.
Yeah.
And a lot of there are some people there is a fan theory that says that Neo is not the one because the Oracle told him that he wasn't the one. I don't believe that. I believe, just like Morpheus said, just like Niobe said in Matrix Revolution. Yeah, was it Revolutions? Yeah, Revolutions. The Oracle tells you exactly what you need to hear.
Right,
And not only that, but she tells you exactly what you need to hear when you need to hear it, because
right.
the Oracle understands the human psyche and knows what to say, how to say it, and when to say it in order to influence a human to do a certain action without being like a puppeteer, or as the Merovingian would say, the fortune teller.
Right, right.
Well, she's another example of a great mentor type,
Mhm.
ally type figure. but yeah, like I said, it wasn't until he was freed of that pressure that he could then do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing. And that at its core is what the hero's journey is about. The hero's
Right.
journey is about, teaching humans how to be better people.
Right. Yeah, can you imagine if the Oracle had been like, "Yes, Neo, you are the one." He would probably second guess every decision he was making,
From there on out, yeah.
From there on out. Yeah, he'd be like, if okay, so if I'm the one, then I guess I need to save Morpheus, but they're going to expect this, and so maybe I need to, it's just it would have been
Mhm.
a disaster." And so you're right. Hearing that he wasn't the one, he's like, "Okay, I'm not the one. Let's just go do what we can, what we can, type of thing." And
Yeah, yeah, because a lot of the big theme, or one of the big themes in the Matrix, is, freedom and freedom of the mind, freeing your
right,
mind.
yeah, yeah,
Even though his physical mind was free from the Matrix, he was still bound by his own self-doubt.
self-doubt, yeah, yeah,
And so in telling him that he wasn't the one, it freed him of that self-doubt. So now his physical mind is free, and his emotional mental mind is now free as well. So it just goes to show the power of internal conflict. A story, a movie, a book, whatever you want to call it, a story is really the internal conflict, and it's wrapped up in
in external
the
conflict, but
external
yeah,
conflict, all the bells and whistles, and the world building and superpowers. That's just the icing on the cake. So
I'm gonna watch The Matrix tonight, I think.
I actually went through the trilogy last week,
Oh, did you
the
really?
original trilogy. I'm
Wow.
not watching Resurrections,
Right, right, yeah.
and I watched the Animatrix too, which is fantastic.
Think I've seen parts of that. I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched the whole thing, and if I have, it's been 20 years, so I probably should rewatch it.
Yeah, you should definitely rewatch it. I would love to do that on Cinema Heroes. I think that would
Okay.
be a great episode. But before we get into the next segment, do you have any final thoughts on the hero's journey?
Well, when we were talking about it, it came to mind that like a lot of superheroes fall into that category because a lot of superheroes start off as kind of everyday regular, like Peter Parker's like a great example.
Hmm.
He's this everyday kind of nerdy kid who gets thrown into this supernatural world, which is basically just he gets bit by the spider and all of a sudden he's got powers and responsibility, great
Hmm.
responsibility. But a lot of superheroes can kind of fall into to that um to the category of the hero of the hero's journey. Even Tony Stark, I think, would fall into that category, and because Tony Stark definitely has a great character arc, he definitely changes.
For
You know,
sure.
um, So yeah. Anyway, superheroes definitely kind of fall. It's probably part of the reason why I like superheroes so much is because they do follow that kind of hero's journey
Oh yeah,
um,
absolutely.
archetype, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's the superhero genre is perfect for the hero's journey, because like I said, when it's done well, you have that internal conflict, but then you get all the awesome stuff. You get the man in the metal suit, and you get the laser eyes, you get the guy
Right.
that turns green when he's
Yeah.
angry. But it doesn't mean anything if Tony Stark is selfless from the beginning. He has to
Right.
be selfish and transform to selfless in order for it to mean anything. It doesn't
Right.
mean anything if Batman immediately knows how to be Batman
Right.
from the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
No, sometimes that works. Uh, Michael Keaton's Batman. He was just Batman from the start. He knew what he
Right.
was doing. But other times, people like me, I like that internal conflict. I like to see characters flawed and having things wrong with them. I like to see that change. I like to see the development. I like to see the improvement,
Yeah.
because something that's big for me is, um commonality and empathy. I like to be able to place myself in the position of the protagonist,
Right.
even though the circumstances are larger than life. Because the hero's journey is to teach us how to be better humans, I want to see parts of myself reflected in in the protagonist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well said.
Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and get into the next segment, which is my favorite segment, and that is draft time.
Woo!
Tonight's category, draft pool category, is movie heroes. For those of you that are not familiar, draft time rules: the host and the guest will take turns making picks from the feature draft pool. First time guests will go first. Once a pick is selected, it is immediately taken off the board. Justin went first last time, so I think I'm gonna go first this time.
We made a caveat to this draft time before we started recording.
Yeah,
And so uh it's movie heroes, but we're not allowed to choose any superheroes.
because that's too easy.
It's
Because
too easy.
we love superheroes,
Yeah.
so our entire list would be
Right.
superheroes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But with that, that'll be for another episode. And by a superheroes, for those of you that want to be smartasses, uh, by superheroes we mean superheroes in the traditional sense. So just because they have superpowers
Right.
or supernatural powers or otherworldly powers, whatever you want to call it, abilities, whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're superheroes. When we say we're excluding superheroes, we're saying that we're excluding Batman, Superman, Spider-Man,
Spider-Man,
Iron Man,
yeah.
stuff like that.
Captain America, right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So number one, I'm just gonna go right off the bat and I'm gonna pick Neo.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. If you had let me go first, I was gonna say Neo as well. So I had a feeling you were
Let me
gonna
go
take
ahead and
that
take
one.
him off the board right now.
Take him right away. Yeah, I mean, he's a great choice. I mean, we've obviously talked a lot about the Matrix already, and so
Mhm.
I don't know how much there is to add, but yeah, he fits the role of hero perfectly. So
Yeah, I
good
mean, you
choice.
know me. I The Matrix is
Yeah.
my second favorite movie of all time. So I could talk about that all night. So
Right.
I think we've said all we needed to say
Yeah.
about Neo and the Matrix. So
Yeah.
yeah, good choice
All
for
right.
me. I'm gonna pat myself on the back.
Yeah, yeah, you should. Yeah, absolutely. Since you took Neo, I'm gonna go with the next obvious choice and take Luke Skywalker off the board.
Nice.
So
I knew that was coming. A great example. A perfect um archetype for the hero's journey. He has a clear goal of becoming great and becoming a
Mhm.
Jedi. Um, he has all of those character moments, the call to adventure or call to
Yeah.
action, the inciting incident. Um, he over the course of the original trilogy, he has a few all is lost moments.
Right, yeah, yeah,
But again, he's a great example of the hero's journey. He doesn't lack uh self-doubt or confidence. For me, at least what I see in him is he lacked focus, and he had to, really focus and hone in on allowing the force to um or allowing himself to use the force
right,
to the best of his ability, and he had to learn how to hone his skills of focus to do that. So
right,
that was a great choice.
yeah, yeah. You could say he had to learn to like kind of because at the end, he's trying to use the I forget what you call it, but like the monitor to see where
Mhm,
to shoot the bomb or whatever, and
mhm,
he has to kind of learn to let go and and
mhm.
and let the force, use the force, Luke. So yeah, he has that was a great moment in that movie, and um I was, when you said he had like a few all his lost moments, like I immediately was like, what was his all his lost moment in the first movie? And it has to be when Obi-Wan gets killed, right?
Yeah, when
And Darth
Obi-Wan gets
Vader,
killed.
yeah, because that, I mean, that his mentor, he just sees his mentor get murdered in front of him.
Mhm.
That clearly is a big all is lost moment.
Oh, yeah. And I mean that's probably one of the most effective all is lost moments. Because I remember being a kid and watching that for the first time and my jaw dropped on the floor. I was like, "No!"
Obi-Wan.
But no, Luke Skywalker, great choice, great choice.
Thank you.
On to round 2, um, we already touched on it. I'm gonna pick this protagonist who was, in my opinion, one of the greatest heroes or heroines of all time, and that is Ellen Ripley.
Oh yes, good choice. Very good choice. I thought you were going with Marty McFly there for a second until you said heroin. Then I thought, oh wait, that's different.
Well, I know who
Um,
you're gonna pick next.
actually, yeah, maybe I should. No, I'm gonna go with somebody different. But Ellen Ripley is a great choice too. And one of the things we've talked about Alien on Cinema Heroes, and one of the things that's so
Mhm.
interesting about that movie is she doesn't really start off as the main character,
Yes.
and so she's almost a supporting character until until she's kind of forced into that hero role,
Mhm.
because she's got to do something. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, Ellen Ripley, and then of course in the next movie, she's even more of a hero and a stronger lead character and everything.
Mhm.
But yeah, great choice, Ellen Ripley.
But the thing about Ellen Ripley is that although she doesn't get a whole lot of screen time in like the first third of the movie, you could even say the first half of the movie,
Right.
um, she has all the characteristics of the protagonist. Because one big thing about a hero of the story is that they don't necessarily have to be, but oftentimes they are different from the world around them.
Hmm.
And most of the people around her are very compliant and go with the flow, company men type people.
Right.
Um, and she is a person of principle.
Hmm.
I'll do what I'll adhere to protocols unless it it puts myself or my team in danger.
Right.
Then all protocols go out the window. Safety is what is the most important,
Yeah.
and she establishes that uh from the beginning of the movie.
Right. Yeah, she does. That there's that scene with the other actress whose name I forget, and I don't remember her character name at the moment, but where
Hmm.
like Ripley refuses to open the door because they have to quarantine for so long or something to yeah, I forget what the scene is exactly, but they're
Hmm.
yelling at each other and she's like, I'm not opening this door. She's not making any friends really with the team.
No, not at
Uh
all.
but she is sticking to her principles in that
Yeah, for
moment.
sure, for sure. All right, how about you, man?
I'm not going to choose Marty McFly, just because I mentioned it, so I'll take him off. I'm going to go with Harry Potter actually, because Harry Potter fits that hero's journey pretty well, and
Yeah.
he's another character who I like, who especially you think about being plucked out of the normal world into the supernatural world. He fits that perfectly, going from living under the cupboard in his uncle's house, who and he thinks that that's normal life, even though his uncle and aunt are abusive essentially to him, and
Yeah.
uh and then he's plucked out of that world and literally into a new magical world that he had no idea that existed. He finds out that his parents were of that world,
Hmm.
wizard and a witch, and he's a wizard, and then one of the things I love about Harry Potter too is that when he goes into that world, everybody knows who he is. Like, he goes
Yeah.
from this kid who literally is, like, shoved into a cupboard under the stairs to going into it's kinda like a pub, I guess, or a restaurant in Diagon Alley, and people are like, "That's Harry Potter." And he's
Yeah.
like, you know who I am, type of thing. So it's just that first movie. It's just so much fun to see him explore and learn the new world and be good at it. And then his allies, Ron and Hermione, and his mentor and
Mhm.
Dumbledore, and also Hagrid as well is kind of a mentor character a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just think he fits it really well. So that's Harry Potter is what I was gonna choose for my number two.
Agreed, agreed. It was a mistake to not pick Marty McFly because number 3 for me is Marty McFly.
That's all right. Perhaps you'll win this draft time.
I don't know. I mean, you do have Luke Skywalker and and
And
and,
Harry Potter,
and
yeah.
Harry Potter, so
I might blow it with my next choice, but I got to go with my next choice.
what
Uh,
is it? I
it's
wanna hear.
actually a 2 for 1, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
but it's, I'm gonna go with Bill and Ted. So,
Okay,
Bill and Ted,
I'll give you that.
you you haven't seen that movie yet, have you, Stu?
No, I haven't.
I think they fit it very well. They're 2 high school students who are aspiring rock stars, even though they don't know how to play any instruments, and, they're basically failing, school. Ted is being, his father's threatening to send him to military school if he ends up failing his history class.
Mhm.
And that's when George Carlin shows up from the future. And George Carlin is definitely the mentor character. He shows up with the time traveling phone booth and tells him, that in the future, they essentially Bill and Ted is like the founder of their society, essentially. They like so they he's like, "You've got to pass this history test." And so he provides them with the time machine to travel through time and pick up historical figures, and so that way they can pass the history test. So they definitely the characters change, and they have that arc throughout the film. They're definitely different at the end of the movie than they were at the beginning of the film. They're
Mhm.
still kind of the goofy, lovable dummies, but they learn as well. And so
Yeah,
yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I love Bill and Ted. So, yeah, I'm going with Bill and Ted.
good choice.
Thanks.
Round 4 for me, I'm gonna go with a character that has been interpreted in many different ways. I think the most famous example is an animated Disney version. With but a lot of people don't even know that that's what it is. But I'm gonna go with Hamlet because I
The
was
Lion
thinking
King.
about
Yeah.
Simba
Yeah.
from The Lion King, but I was like, let me go back to the source
Right. Yeah.
and pick Hamlet.
Nice.
And the reason I picked Hamlet is because he is a great example of self-examination
Hmm.
and self-discovery and purpose and who am I within these circumstances. Does because he has to overcome the shadow of his father's legacy in order to save the kingdom.
Hmm.
So I think that is I think that's a great example of the hero's journey. And like I said, it's been interpreted and reinterpreted so many times. Um,
Yeah.
which is a reason why it stands the test of time. So gonna go with
Did you ever watch
Hamlet for
Did you ever watch the show Sons of Anarchy about the motorcycle
no.
club? That's loosely based on Hamlet as well, and it works very very well.
Ooh,
Um, the main character, his father used to be like the president of the motorcycle club. He
mhm.
was killed before the first episode even starts. He was killed, and now his mom is married to the new president of the motorcycle club. And
Ah.
so it works really well. And for a long time I was trying to figure out who Ophelia was, and I assumed it was one of the female characters, and then I realized there's a guy character named Opie. And it wasn't until later season that I was like, he's Ophelia. Like it kind of clicked, and I was like, it's a great show. Unfortunately, I never finished it. I have a really bad habit of watching all of the seasons except for the last season of a television show, and I never watched the last season of Sons of Anarchy for some reason.
Oh yeah, I'll check it out. I've heard that it's a great show, but the fact that you mentioned that it is based on Hamlet that perked my ears up. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna check that out for sure.
Next, I gotta go with another obvious choice, which is Frodo Baggins. I thought about switching it up and going with Bilbo Baggins because he's another one that in The Hobbit had, is a call to adventure. He doesn't want to go on the adventure and then decides that he finally does, and he changes over the book and everything. So,
Hmm.
but I like if you were going with movies, the Lord of the Rings movies are so much better than the Hobbit movies. So I got to go with Frodo.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Last round. I mean, so many to pick from.
I think I got a good one.
Um, Unfortunately, superheroes are coming to
Right.
mind.
Yeah, yeah. I just turned around and saw a movie, and that's why I was like, "Ooh, that's a good one." So I think I'm gonna go. I've got mine in lock.
I think I might go with a very unconventional choice. And he's a protagonist from a very unconventional director. And I think I'm gonna go with Django Freeman,
Oh,
Django
yeah.
Unchained.
Nice. That's a good choice. That's a great
Yeah,
choice. Yeah, that's a really good choice. I like that pick a lot, actually.
yeah. He has a I mean that whole movie is great, but he has a really good hero's journey
Mhm.
arc when he meets Christoph Waltz character
Yeah.
that is his mentor and ally, and
Uh-huh.
also um sets off his call to adventure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good choice. Nicely
Mhm.
done.
Thank you.
Um, a couple of, I guess, honorable mentions. When you mentioned The Lion King, Aladdin came to mind, and I think he fits that really well.
Yeah, I got ready to pick Aladdin, but I didn't wanna do Hamlet and Aladdin. I mean, I could
You
have,
could
but
have, yeah.
I didn't wanna do 2
But
Disney references.
Django's a great choice. Um, another character, this isn't my pick,
Mhm.
but another character that comes to mind when I think of like an everyday character is Sam Witwicky from Transformers.
Yes.
And I think he's got a pretty cool, hero's journey. He's obviously someone who's definitely plucked out of the real world and into a strange world full of alien transforming cars or
Yeah.
robots. So I like Sam Witwicky as well. But my final choice, I am gonna go with the great Rocky Balboa.
Ooh, that's a fantastic choice. Yo.
I turned around and saw the Creed movies sitting right here, and I was like, "Oh yes,
Yeah,
Rocky."
that is a
Yeah,
fantastic choice. I'm
that
jealous.
that that first Rocky movie, especially, like that's a great hero's journey story.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and so yeah, and I love Rocky. I like a lot of those movies, if not all of them.
I
I've
like
been
all of them but 5. 5 is the only one I don't like.
See, I actually kind of like five. And I remember I almost hate to admit it because I've only seen it once, and so many people talked about how good Rocky 4 was. And when
Yeah.
I watched it probably it's been a while, it's probably been 15 years or so, but when I watched it, I remember thinking I was like, how many montages can we have in one movie? And so like I just I wasn't a huge fan of 4. And so 5, and I think it was just the whole expectations thing. Everybody talked about how good 4 was, and everybody talks about how bad 5 is, that I went in with 4 thinking it was gonna be the greatest of the series and was kinda disappointed, and then I went into 5 thinking it was gonna be just garbage and was like, "That wasn't that bad." So,
5 isn't garbage, but it's a significant step down from the first 4 movies.
it is, and it's not a good way to end the series, which is why I'm so glad that he came out with Rocky Balboa in
Yeah.
2006, because that movie is such a much better way to end the
Yeah,
series.
Rocky Balboa is probably the most underrated Rocky movie.
Yeah, I
That is
agree.
that is a fantastic movie
It
that
really is.
nobody talks about.
I know, yeah. I saw that in the theater and I just thought it was amazing. I've been really kind of itching to rewatch that entire series lately, especially
Me
with Creed
too.
3 coming out. I kind of want
Yeah,
to
for
watch
the
Rocky.
4Ks coming out now, and
Yeah, I just want to watch Rocky 1 through 6 and then watch Creed 1 and 2 and then go see Creed 3.
yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure, for sure.
but yeah, Rocky Balboa, my final choice for draft time.
Great pick, great pick. So we're gonna end draft time after 5 rounds for movie heroes. I have Neo, Ellen Ripley, Marty McFly, Hamlet, and Django. Justin has Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, Bill and Ted, Frodo, and Rocky Balboa. Solid choices all around.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I would say this
difficult
one is a
choices.
wash.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too.
Yeah. But yeah, I did this was a great episode. I really enjoyed talking about this. There's so much more that I had to say. I had a few notes and a few like
That we didn't get to.
diagrams laying across my desk and stuff. But we're gonna save that for part two whenever that happens. But like I said, this was a great episode. I definitely had fun
Yeah,
talking
me
about
too.
this. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. If you want to follow me at studio_media at TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. Follow Justin at Cinema Heroes on Instagram and YouTube. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. But in the meantime, we are going to watch some more movies. See you later.